we have come to the stage where we can create the business canvas. Now the business canvas, we decided to create one for each business line that we were pursuing. The reason for this will become evident as we discuss the business canvas. Now what we will do is, we will first walk through the empty business canvas. I will discuss what are the nuances, what needs to be filled into the business canvas. Once we have understood that, then I will walk you through one business canvas we created for one of the business lines. So let us start our discussion on what is the business canvas all about. So on your screen, what you're seeing is a business canvas. So let us walk through each nuances of this business canvas. Right in the center of the business canvas, we find value proposition. This is what is the business going to be all about. So we need to answer typical questions like, what value do we deliver to the customers? Which customer problems are we helping to solve? What bundles of products or services are we offering to each customer segment? Which customer needs are to be satisfied? Now these are the typical questions we need to answer while setting up our business. So we always start the business canvas by answering these questions. You'd have noticed that the right hand side of the value proposition is all about the customer and how we reach them and what is the revenue we generate from them. The first question we require to answer regarding the customers is the customer relationships. So typically we need to answer questions like, what type of relationships does each of our customer segment expect us to establish and maintain with them? Which of them have been already established? How are they integrated with the rest of our business model? How costly are they? Once we have a clear idea regarding what are the customer relationships, we can answer the questions regarding the channels through which we can reach the customers. Typically regarding channels, we need to answer these questions. Through which channels customer segments want to be reached? How are we reaching them now? Which ones work best? Which ones are the most cost effective? How are we integrating them with the customer routine? Now typically all the questions may not be answerable in all the circumstances. You need to be careful in finding out which are relevant to the circumstance and then make the answers to these questions so that your business canvas is realistic and good. The next segment on the business canvas is customer segments. Now this is a very important segment. The customer segmentation has to be done very carefully and you should select a proper beachhead through which the business will take off, and then how it will be expanded, that needs to be planned very carefully. So typically we answer questions like, for whom are we creating value? Who are the most important customers for us? Once we have defined who are our customers going to be and how are we going to reach them and what are the kind of relationships we will maintain with them, we need to now find out what are going to be our revenue streams. You would understand that business is all about generating revenue and the revenue has to be utilized in a very proper manner. So we need to have a very clear idea how we will generate the revenue. If there is no revenue, there is no business. So typically we answer questions like, for what value are the customers willing to pay? For what they are currently paying? How are they currently paying? How would they prefer to pay? How much does each revenue stream contribute to the overall revenue? So these typical questions need to be answered and the revenue streams need to be very clearly defined. Now we move to the left hand side of the value proposition. In the left hand side, we typically decide and define what are the internals that we will set up in the organization for supporting our business. So first thing we require to answer is, what are our key activities? Typically we require to answer questions like, what key activities do our value propositions require? What are our distribution channels? What are our customer relationships? What are our revenue streams? So once we have these questions answered, we will have a clear idea regarding how we will go about meeting the requirements on the right hand side. Once we have defined the key activities, we need to identify what are the key resources we require to support the key activities. Typically we require to answer questions like, what key resources do our value proposition require? Again, we need to identify what are distribution channels, customer relationships and revenue streams. Next, we need to find out and identify who are going to be our key partners, because partners are going to be required in the delivery of the services. So we need to identify what are our key partners, who are the key suppliers, what key resources are required from our partners, what activities do our partners perform. Once we have defined what are our activities and resources requirement and partners going to be, we need to find out what is going to be our cost structure. And this is one of the most vital parts of the business canvas. Now we need to find out exactly what is going to be our cost in order to generate the revenue that we are planning to generate. So we require to typically find out what are the most important costs inherent in the business, what key resources are the most expensive, what key activities are the most expensive. Now we need to have a very clear idea regarding how much we are going to be spending to generate the revenue that we are planning to generate. Now we have gone through what are the requirements for filling up the business canvas. Now I propose mechanism for filling it up. This is the way I do it. This is by no way the only way to do it. This is not by no way the best way to do it. You can follow your own mechanism also. However, this is the way I have been doing it and I find it useful. So I am proposing it to you. So the first thing I do is I make the value proposition. From the value proposition, I'm able to decide what are the customer relationships that we will require. And once the customer relationships are established, I can decide what are the channels we will require to reaching out to the customers. Then we can decide the customer segments that we will address. From the customer segments and the above information, we can find out what are the revenue streams that we will have. Then, once we have defined this side, I move to the left hand side where I first define the key activities. From the key activities, I can find out what are the key resources I require, and for the resources, what are the partnerships I require, I can figure it out. Once I have figured out all this, I can figure out the cost structure. Now, as I have told you, this is by no means the only mechanism to do it, and this is by no means a recommendation of any sort. This is just the way I am used to doing the business canvas. Now that we have discussed what are the requirements for filling up a business canvas, next let us walk through an example of a failed business canvas.